Wonderful. There's my two co-hosts. Okay, so a lot of you that have been in the boot camp have been talking to Farnas on all of the weekly meetings, the live meetings. And then Farid is the composer and performer of our theme music that you've heard on all of our podcast episodes. And he also was with me on the Rooz Shab podcast. So you have heard his voice and hopefully you're familiar with him as well. And so Baltimore, great. So I've been asking everyone where they've been calling from. We have a lot from Texas and a lot from Europe. We just got a Berlin. Yeah, wonderful. Hungary, that might be a first. Okay, so welcome everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So this is our kind of talking about the boot camp just ended this week. And basically the boot camp, for the person that's not familiar with it, Sonia, who's also in Austin. So basically the boot camp was a 6-week course to get people familiar with the Chai Conversation program. We did some speaking lessons, we did some reading and writing lessons, and we also did a poetry lesson, and that was about Rumi's Rooz Shab poem. So a lot of people in here have been going through the boot camp, and a lot of people completed it, and a lot of people are, on their way to completing it. Farnas, do you see some familiar faces from your?
Oh, yes, a lot. Yes, of course. Hi to everybody. I enjoyed being with you guys. I really had a good time. Yes, I do see a lot of good of people who attended the boot camp.
Yeah, so she's in Dallas right now. And in fact, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're calling from?
I am calling from Beverly Hills, Los Angeles.
Angeles, okay.
Yeah, I'm in Angeles, where most of the Iranians in America live, I believe. We had, I think in the last protest that they had for the revolution was close to 35,000 people in the streets. It's pretty big. Toronto had 50,000, so yeah. They're beating us. How is everyone doing? I see some familiar faces. I see Sonia is here. Hi, Sonia John. And Farnas, salam. Hi. Hello to everybody. And Layla, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in Iran right now. And Farnas told me that with the poem, she's been relating a little bit of the poem with what's going on right now too. So we're going to get to that when we talk about the poem. But basically September 20th is we started this boot camp on, I think, September 14th or something. And I had a baby due on September 22nd. So Farnas kind of took over the boot camp. But in addition to that, these massive protests started in Iran. And even though I had a lot of content ready to go for the Instagram page to keep people familiar with the language going, we kind of had to stop everything. And September 20th, I took the Chai Conversation Instagram page dark and realized something massive was happening. And I think all of us, it kind of happened like a train from the beginning. We didn't realize how big this was going to get, but it's only gained momentum. It's become even bigger. And as you can see, there's huge protests still happening in Iran and throughout the world. And all of us have been very involved in what's going on. Farnas, Farid in Los Angeles. It's kind of taken the whole diaspora in as well. And so we've been concentrating on trying to see what we can do to help from this corner of the world. And I don't know if anyone else wants to share if they've been going to protest, or Farid, do you want to say anything? Farnas, do you want to share anything about what's been going on?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, being involved is just basically we are being affected. Basically, we are just out of the country. We don't have any hands-on, experience, hands-on possibility to do anything. But other than being the voice of the people, over here to let everybody over in this part of the world get to know what's going on, about because this is something that is very much relevant to most every type of discrimination that is happening, and we've been taking part in basically opposing it. You call it for women's, for the transgender, for the LGTB, and everything. Like whatever that you the discrimination against being able to speak, just censorship and everything. Anybody could relate to this kind of to whatever is happening in Iran in a way. So some of this, I didn't bring it up myself, but some of the students asked me, and I just explained what is going on as somebody that has the previous background of, the experience of the first revolution of 1979. I was there. I was not there at the time, but I was after the revolution happened, I was in the country and noticed the changes and noticed how it gradually changed. And basically, I was following the series of revolutions that ended up to the series of protests that ended up to the revolution. So you see, it's nothing that doesn't happen over the night, but you see the gradual changes that happens. But the support is very, very, very important. And the people are doing whatever they need to do over there. They don't need us, but what they need is just the support of, like governmental support, like the support of sanction of the causes of this problem, and getting, just quieting and not accepting and not having relationship with the leaders of the government, that are causing this kind of problem. This is what we can just voice over here. I think I should not talk too much. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and Tariq, do you have anything that you want to add?
Well, there's so much that has already been said. I think Farnos has expressed herself in a way that I think we can all chime in here. And if I can, I can't see everyone's face, but for the most part, is everyone here somehow of Iranian descent in some hyphenated fashion? Not necessarily, right?
No, not at all.
I notice a Tom Sutherland and a Jason and a Paula and a Nick.
Well, I would say the China Conversation listeners have three different, we have three different types of students. Sure. One is of Iranian descent. The second, which I think is even more than that, is people married to or dating an Iranian. Right. And then third are just people that are very interested in the culture. Absolutely. That is fascinating to me, a lot of that as well. So if you want to leave in the comments.
To speak to that effect, and so I don't know if you all know, but I teach as well. I teach classical Persian music, and I have a school of music by the name of Radif Retreat Institute. And we, just as Layla has said with her China Conversation, we have Iranians, hyphenated Iranians, Iranians that are non-Iranians that are either married to an Iranian, or just Persian files, as I like to call them, people that have a love and affinity for the culture. So I think what I would want to speak to everyone in a broad sense, to our humanity as a people, and say that, every so often, first of all, Layla and I are friends for couple of decades now, and we have been at the forefront of both the political upheaval in Iran, as far as following it and supporting every time there is a moment, a glimmer or a shade of hope that appears. I think we've been there to champion it for the sake of human rights. And today is no different than as 15 years ago, when we had the Green Revolution. It's no different for me. I would want to be audacious and speak and say I'm pretty sure for Layla as well. And today, what's happening in Iran that's really significant, it's larger than being a domestic issue for the Iranians within Iran. This is something that I think every so often throughout history, we've had moments where a movement arises that inspires the humanity within all of us. And I think this is one of those moments in our history, in our time, where beyond the scope of identity that's based on culture and language and race and whatnot, seeing women of all ages, from 12 to 72, out there in the streets fighting. And when I say fight, I mean their life is in danger. And we have noticed so many women and girls lose their lives in this struggle in the span of 5 to 6 weeks. So if you notice, both Chai in Conversation and Ready for Treat, and I would say there is a moral obligation for, and Layla, I think you said going dark. Is that what you said, right? I think that is a correct assessment for many artists and doers and shakers and makers and people that are actually contributing to culture in a significant way. It would be morally obligatory, in my opinion, to be fully in this movement 100%. Every second counts, every post counts, and it is a war that is being fought on social media, because mainstream media took a little while to really chime in. But what's happening in Iran is significant, and I ultimately do believe this is one of those moments in history where we're being inspired in a significant way to come together. And I am very hopeful, no matter how dark and trying and difficult these moments may be. Hope is really the only way to be hopeful.
Yeah. And throughout this boot camp, like, we haven't been talking about this too much because our goal is language learning on this podcast, but it's not something that we could ignore. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really impossible to, like, the first thing I said, I started talking about the protests, because it's literally every moment of my life, and I think for Layla's as well, is really dedicated to this movement.
mhm.
And I just want to add, Layla John,
Yeah.
that basically, the more you look at you become familiar with the poems, the more you delve into the poems and meanings of those. Actually, the poems have been said at these times.
Yes.
Basically, these are, I mean, like, the poem that has, like Sadi has said about the relationship of people, humanity, and people,
Yes.
feeling about each other. And if we don't feel the pain of one person, that in the society that we are all coming from one root, we're from one stem, and if we don't feel for each other, and we cannot call ourselves human. It's all, and that's basically how it is related to a poem. Is so much entwined with the culture, and the culture has just developed because of the history. And whenever there has been these kind of issues, these poems have been the tools or facets, actually the weapons that people have used to to
Yes.
help them endure the pain and suffering. For instance, like the one that Sadi has said, that we are all human beings are, coming from one source, and that's why we are, we are all alike. If one
Yes.
part is hurting, all the rest should pay attention to that. And if we are not considering that pain, and we don't do anything about it, we cannot call ourselves human beings. So everything basically reflects to that. Even the poem that is going to be discussed today.
Mhm.
I just talked to Layla. I can just relate to that so much, about how people are feeling and why they are going to the streets, sacrificing their lives for the beloved that they have lost, for their freedom that they have lost, and there's so much yearning to see again. I mean,
Mhm.
this is just, that's one thing I just wanted to relate. And that's how the poems become live. They
Mhm.
never die. They all, throughout the years and ages that they passes, that, this poem has been said by Rumi, how many hundred years ago,
Yes.
but still you can relate to it because
Mhm.
it is live.
Right. That is wonderful.
If I can add to that, Layla, just about 2 blocks from my house, there is a monument that was built here in the center of the city of Beverly Hills, where Santa
Mm,
Monica becomes Beverly Hills. It's the Cyrus Cylinder.
okay.
And before I would drive by this monument and not really feel much because I actually didn't like the architectural representation of it. But nowadays, when I drive by it, I actually get really moved because people have gone and they tied headscarves to the bottom of
Wow.
this. And in Persian culture, there is a tradition we have called dakhil bastan, dakhil, and basically in the old days, people would, if, for example, if there was someone that had lived over 100 years, people would go tear a piece of their clothes from that person, and then they would go tie it onto a wishing tree or onto a place of worship. So, to the effect of what Farna is saying is that culture is continuous. Culture doesn't become binary or stop in one point and begin again. When I see the Cyrus cylinder, to see, well, everyone knows that in a Cyrus cylinder, it goes back to 1400 BC, or wait, what am I saying? Yes, I think roughly over 1,000 years ago, when Cyrus freed the Jews from Babylon, and in his proclamation there was an affinity for multiculturalism and allowing people to believe and to worship and to think freely. As long as you pay your taxes, you're fine. And that source of freedom that is from the great king, or Cyrus the Great, now it's sitting here in Beverly Hills, and people are attaching today's struggle to the voices of our past. So I know today we're about to jump into Rooz Shab. Is that correct,
Yes.
Layla? And
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. If you can read the entire poem. So basically, for those that weren't in the boot camp, this past 6 weeks, we learned the poem Rooz Shab by Rumi, which was originally chosen by Farid from hundreds of poems that he could have chosen. He's a musician and he likes the musicality of this poem. We also listened to the song by Lotfi that had this music, and it's very rhythmic. It repeats Ruza Shab, and it really stood well with us. But like Farna said, it has some meaning that's really close to this moment.
Layla John, I
Yeah.
believe Sahara John would like to say something.
Okay. What would you like to say, Sam?
Oh no, I think I just animated with my hands on accident. So he
Oh,
probably thought I had to say something. But no,
I
I do have Iran on my
Oh,
and
nice.
this one's Masa. Can you see?
Yeah, that's amazing.
oh oh my God. You know what?
Represent. Yes,
I
Very
need to
cool.
I need to get Massa on my nail. That's
yes you do. Yes you do. Represent.
That's
it's
for
my
his
sitar now.
that's for his playing sitar. I
Yeah.
also Bani Adam by Sadi is also a poem that we did for the poetry series. So I put that in the chat if you guys want to look at that. It is also a very important poem for this moment. And like Fabnas was saying, a lot of these poets wrote these poems at very tumultuous times. When Sadi was writing that, there were wars going on, there were massive influxes of refugees. Same with Rumi's time. It's just moments of tumultuousness, which we're in right now. So Farid, with no further ado, if you can read the poem for us.
Sure.
The
Yes.
selection of the poem, it's much longer, but this was the selection that we chose to
So
study for this.
so these are the first few lines of a poem by Maulana, or Rumi as we know him. We start off with the first line. If everyone has something to follow along or would like to mute and
I'll put it
pronunciate.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Um,
Okay,
all right, we'll begin.
just a second. That work?
That
No.
was, I really like your nail idea. That was cool.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
Thank you.
Let me see. Let me get this. Okay. Go ahead, Fatty. There we go. It's
Okay.
in the chat now.
all right, wonderful. So it's in the
And
chat.
in the chat, it has the transliteration in phonetic English, and followed by the translation and then the Persian script.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll begin with the first line, everybody. در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب. سر ز پایت or سر ز کویت بر ندارم روز و شب. روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم. روز و شب را کی گذارم روز و شب. جان و دل را میخواستند از عاشقان. جان و دل را می سپارم روز و شب. So we'll go back to the beginning, to the first line. در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب. We're going to just focus on that first line for a second right there. Notice in Persian language, in any language, you have consonants and you have vowels, okay? And the way that the vowels are expressed is where your musicality is coming into full effect. So we have short and we have long. So dar havayat. So all in the second word, havayat, right? I am dazed of the thought of you day and night. Dar, within, I am dazed of the thought of you day and night. Now this isn't a translation that's literal, right? So this is of the essence, but dar havayat, within the air of you, within the spirit of you. Dar havayat. Notice at the end of that, the consonant, it's really important to pronounce, to over pronunciate those consonants. Dar havayat bi qara. Now notice in B, E is another vowel, but it's short. Dar havayat bi qararam روز و شب. One more time together. 1, 2, 3. در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب. Again. در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a 6/8 rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a waltz. Da 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 boop boop ba boop boop ba boop boop ba. 1. در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب. سر ز پایت بر ندارم روز و شب. One more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. And در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب. سر ز کویت. Or now the second word, the third word in the second line, سر ز پا is your feet, right? پایت. Or سر ز کویت. Now there's, in a lot of texts you'll notice that these poems, there's these slight discrepancies. For even the Bani Adam poem, Bani Adam as a yek peikarand or yek degarand, right? And then if you go study this, you'll notice that some words are more correct and some of it just takes some common sense to see which is better. But sarze payat, I personally am not a fan of it because it's really like, you know, groveling down to someone's feet, whereas sarz kuyat is more of the spirit and more of the essence of the person, rather than like a materialistic worldly groveling. So sarz kuyat bar nadaram roz o shab. Okay, y'all see the musicality of this? Now we're going to go back to the beginning of this. This was a 6/8 rhythm that we just focused on. Let's do a 4/4 rhythm, okay? Which is in the recording of my teacher, Ustad Muhammad Reza Lutfi. When he sings this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dar havayat bi qararam roz o shab. Sar z kuyat bar nadaram roz o shab. So it's a completely different emphasis and accent is different, right? Now this is where a discussion comes into play about which should we focus on? Should we focus on the 6? Should we focus on the 4? 6 is the correct. 6 is like literally, if you're going to really read this with the qafiya bandi is the inherent rhythmic integrity of a poem that's based on, you know, the lock and key format of it, right? So So the first one that we went through, which was in 6, it's the correct one if you want to think about it. But as a musician, as an artist, there is some level of freedom where you can do. So Muhammad Reza Lotfi, being one of the prominent masters of classical Persian music, rest in peace, he sang this in 4, which gave it a more, it becomes a khalse, which a khalse is a trance, right? Khalse. So a lot of Rumi poems, like Rooz or Shab, the musicality of it really lends itself for a trance-like state. That's what these poems do, and it's really about this intense and immense longing that you have. And we're going to go back and do this one more time. Let's just focus on the 6 once through, and then we could go back and do 1 and 4, and then maybe we could have a moment and discuss and see if there's any questions, and if anybody else would like to actually recite it. I know in Ready for Retreat, when I do my Master Zoom classes, I always allow for a portion for people to express themselves and reciting it right here on the spot. But let's do this one more time from the start. We're gonna go with Dar Havoyat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Dar Havoyat بیقرارم روز و شب سر ز پایت بر ندارم روز و شب روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم روز و شب را کی گذارم روز و شب جان و دل را میخواستند از عاشقان جان و دل را میسپارم روز و شب جان و دل را میخواستند از عاشقان جان و دل را میسپارم روز و شب. One more time from the beginning. در هوایت بیقرارم روز و شب سر ز کویت بر ندارم روز و شب روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم روز و شب را کی گذارم روز و شب. Now with the next line, جان و دل را میخواستند از عاشقان, it really falls from the rhythmic pattern. I'm going to have to go back and check on this because I'm sure there's several formats of this or versions of it that I could look into. But let's just focus. I would say, Layla John, let's just go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, the first 4 lines, I would say, just for the sake of the rhythm of it today. Let's go back to the beginning and try it on a 4/4, okay? در هوایت بی قرارم روز و شب سر ز کویت بر ندارم روز و شب روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم روز و شب را کی گذارم روز و شب 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So you see that? Here's a poem that could be expressed rhythmically in 2 different ways. Layla?
Nice. Okay. Yeah, and like you said, if anyone has any questions at this point, either leave it in the chat or raise your hand and we can call on you to say anything. But also, Fag, if you want to talk a bit about we covered it in the podcast, but is there anything that you want to say about the meaning of the poem or about the concept of Rooz Shab or?
Yeah, I mean, again, just to be candid about yes, it's about love, it's about longing, it's about an absolute devotion to an energy, an entity other than the self, that's larger than the self. And here, people interpret Rumi and basically 2 different ways. One in which that this is a spiritual love, it's a love that's grand and divine and can't be confined within the material world. So when he says, I am dazed of the thought of you day and night, I will place my head at your feet day and night. Day and night I will go mad for you. How can I pass these nights and days? In the path of love, a lover is asked to give away his heart and his soul. I offer my heart and soul night and day. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Well,
The-
actually, sorry, Farnos, something that came up in the lives that you had was relating this to go back to our discussion
Yeah.
in the very beginning of it's
I just wanted to, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention two things. One thing about the melody and the rhythm that you were talking, Farijan. That's basically reading that. Then sometimes, mostly the poems, some of the words, sometimes you have to dissect it into different, different pieces, and then to get the transition from one part to the other. For instance, the Jano Dil Ra Mi Khast, right? If you just have a pause on part of it and jump to the second part of it, that will actually make the flow go with the 6x6 that you were just mentioning. جان و دل را می‌خواستند از عاشقان. You kind of go make the khast, the khast part of it longer, and then jump over to the end of it. می‌خواستند از عاشقان. That would kind of, I feel it makes it more rhythmic. When reciting, this is how I usually do. When a word is not fitting there, you kind of have to pronounce it in a different way, not the regular way of conversational, but rather dissect it into pieces to make it rhythmic with the rest of the rhythm. And
Absolutely.
also, yeah.
Just to add to that, that's absolutely correct. But when you want to turn it into a khalse, into a trance, even that little pause, جان و دل را می‌خواستند از عاشقان, there is یه سکته کوچیک توش میفته. There is a small little pause that happens in there. It's just the nature of the poem, actually.
Exactly.
One of the things that I want to point out to what Farno's saying is that the poem in itself, you're going to find that when a musician comes and they want to pick this and turn it into a trance, there is certain lines that turn into the khalsa, and then there's certain bait that they don't put in it. So for example, that line would not, because no matter how you put the pause in, it still doesn't fall into the rhythmic cycle. But you can sing that in the form of avaz. Now this is where I want to, and thank you for that, Farnos. I don't know how deep we were going to get into this, but in Persian classical music, there is metric and there is non-metric forms of music when it comes to poems, right? So right here we have a form of non-metric singing that's avaz. So if you go and listen to the Lotfi recording of this, Lotfi sings this section, جان و دل را می‌خواستند از عاشقان. خب این الان قافیه درسته. ولی اونو, he does not, sorry, I go into Persian and I go back into English. He does not sing that in the same trance like that he does with the other lines. So sometimes even myself, like let's say I want to make a song based off of this in the Masnavi, I will skip a few of the lines and pick the ones that'll actually stick into the trance-like thing, and then the ones that don't, either I use them as an avaz elsewhere, or they just don't fit into the situation. So many times Shajarian, Ustad Shajarian, rest in peace, you'll notice when he sings Hafiz or Maulana, they will pick and choose certain lines to fit the rhythmic integrity of the tasnif. Now the tasnif again has to, because it still fits qafiya bandi, it still fits, but it does not, it's not chefto bandis, it's not completely lock and key, chefto band.
Yes. So about the meaning that you mentioned later,
Yeah.
John, I mean, just look at it yourself. Try to reflect it to whatever is going on right now. If it is a poem, if it is a lover that is singing it to a beloved one, or is reciting it to a beloved one, you can translate it accordingly, or to refer to the meaning accordingly. But when I listen it right now, listen to this verse, to these verses right now, the only thing that comes into my mind, I see, for instance, I see Rooz در هوایت بیقرارم روز شب. I see the people in the streets, for instance, in the streets of Tehran or anywhere else, that are chanting and we're asking for freedom. They are just shouting, they are yearning, they are just, however they can, they are voicing out, saying, I'm looking for that. What I'm missing is my freedom. Yeah, I just, and this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm yearning. That's how I will translate it right now.
So
If it is my, for instance, if it's a lover, well, I can say it is, yes, it is my lover that I'm just hoping to see pretty soon. So, I mean, just, you can relate that to however situation that you want to. And that's the beauty of the poem. That's the durability, how it can endure for ages, and you can reflect it to every situation. Did you want to say something, Farid? I'm
Well,
sorry.
I, I wanted to just say that absolutely that sense of yearning and
yes.
longing that exists not just within the essence of Sufism that we find within the bedrock of Rumi. That sense of yearning and longing permeates Persian culture on almost every level. So, and one of the things is because Iran has a history of invasion, has a history of, corrupt regimes and dictators and tyrants. Iran, being geopolitically where it's located, Iran has been in a state of turmoil since Genghis Khan all the way to the invasion of the Arabs and so forth, to the Turks, the Mongols, you name it. And because of that, when they asked Shajarian, one of the great singers of Iran, they asked them, why is it that all this music, classical music, is so sad? Why are you always yearning? Why are you always longing? And Shajarian said, well, he said something really beautiful. He said it's because it's a reflection of our history. It's a reflection of it's a reality. The day where Iran does hit 200 years of peace is the day where our music and will reflect that. But right now, this sense of yearning where Farnaz Aziz is attributing it. Yes, Rooz Shab. Day and night, these kids in Iran are fighting, and they are yearning. They're long, maybe not for the same spiritual enlightenment or divinity of love that Rumi is seeking here, but they're seeking justice and they're seeking freedom. They're seeking the right to be and to choose however they want. Women,
and we're seeing we're seeing all these images of Iran pre-revolution. A lot of us were born after the revolution, and we are all yearning for that thing that we never had. We're yearning for these images of Iran that we've never experienced. And so I think that's really nice too. It's like this poem, like you're yearning, he's yearning for this lover or a God that he's never experienced. He just wants to get back to that essence. So I think that's really nice. And also, at the beginning of this boot camp, someone who is in the boot camp, I don't know if she's part of this live right now, that she made a video on TikTok. I don't know how many of you have seen that, talking about how, being part of this community has made her feel connected to something she didn't know that she was missing, feeling this connection to her roots and connection. Exactly. So I think that she really expressed this yearning also in this poem, inadvertently in the very beginning. And a lot of you are learning because, you are married to someone or it's connected to someone who's Iranian. And again, it's the yearning for connection, or connecting to this culture somehow. So I think that we can all relate with this meaning.
See, that's the beauty of Rumi's poems, because it's always talking about existence. But when it's talking about existence is vast, and it actually covers everything. So you can it's just not related to one part. It's not related to one matter. It's everywhere. When Rumi talks about God, is not one person, is not one thing. It's about existence. Existence is everywhere. Existence is infinite. And however you want to translate it, however you want to reflect it, it fits. As you are talking, it fits because it just sits in your heart. Because it's coming from heart, it sits in your heart. And every verse of it that you see, you can somehow reflect it to something that you can relate to. The second line I look at, it says, the sar ز پایت بر ندارم روز و شب. And the fact of Rooz Shab, again, is saying it's nonstop. It's never stopping. It's, there is not a moment I'm not thinking about it. And that's, again, makes it reflected to existence that is nonstop. And you say, where is it that God does not exist? If you want to look at it that way, where is it? Everywhere I looked, I see God, because everything is reflected from, is coming from that direction, from that. And when we're talking about sarze payat or sarze kuyat, in any way, it is reflecting to the direction of that beloved, whatever that the one that is missing, that you have missed, and you're yearning and you're looking for. I go to the next line that goes, Rooz و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم. It's just, I go back to say, this is how they are reflecting. روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم. Just like I am yearning, I will let everybody know about this. Just like me to know what I am feeling. And this is how they are doing it in Iran right now, by their protesting, going out in the streets and saying, this is not what I want. I want something else. And I will say it aloud enough for the whole world to hear. And this is how I reflect this verse. سر روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کن. To مجنون کردن basically is to go crazy, to make crazy. And this is what they're doing. I mean, this is when a woman goes right in front of the truth that is aimed, that are ready to shoot at her and says, I don't believe you, death to dictator. I don't want the veil, whatever. And it sits and is talking against the norm right in front of the truth. Isn't that anything but being crazy? But crazy in a good way, not sick crazy, but crazy that you don't see anything else but what you're yearning for. And that shows the power that comes from that person to stop, just to talk right, or say what that person, that girl wants, or that lady wants, is yearning for, right in front of the troop that is aiming to shoot at her, or just basically you see that they're just in the line to come and invade a friend or arrest her or whatever. That is basically روز و شب را همچو خود مجنون کنم means to me. And when I go further, then it says روز و شب را کی گذارم روز و شب. When is it that I'm stopping from my yearning, day and night? How would I let go of any day and night without this yearning? This is how I translate this line. روز و شب را کی گذارم. How would I let go of the روز و شب, day and night, day and night? I mean, there is not a moment I'm not thinking, I'm not acting upon my yearning, day and night. جان و دل را می‌خواستند از عاشقان. They wanted the heart and soul from the lovers. In this case, I would have translated as, I put my everything, my heart and soul into my yearning. جان و دل را می سپارم روز و شب. Day and night, I will lay down my life, my soul, everything that I have. As you see, all those people, Masa Amini, Nika Shukrai, the other ones, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 22-year-old, they put everything on the line forward for what they were yearning for. Every part of this is basically talking to me right now about what I'm feeling, about what is going on over there. And I just say, how could he say these things 800 years ago that I can relate to so easy? All I can say is that because it is talking about human being, about love and heart and people and humanity is never ending. And you can always, as Farid was just saying, there is no disconnection. There is no disconnection. However you want to translate it, you can just actually apply it. And the one that about Sadi that you put in there, again, the same thing. It's talking about humanity, about the morals, about the norm, about the love. And love is never ending. So I see the beauty in Rumi's. That's why it is that everybody can relate to Rumi, no matter where they are, no matter what age they have, because there is something they can feel about.
Yeah,
Okay.
I beautiful Farnos
it
shown.
was.
You know, I wanted to talk about the essence of Rumi. Okay, the essence of Rumi ultimately comes down to a word that has 4 letters in it,
Yeah.
which is love. It starts with love and it ends with love.
Mm.
And what does love do to you? I'm sure everyone in this room, all 25 of us, has fallen in love. I think many of us have fallen in love many, many, many times. Okay. When you fall in love, what happens to you? Things begin not to matter so much, right? You kind of do what you want to do. You're set free, essentially. And I think part of this rebellion of the self, the inner self, that Sufis, what does a trance do? Why is it that his poems are written in such a rhythmic and such a melodic way? And why is it so easily understood? There is an element of simplicity to Rumi that does not exist, for example, in Hafiz. Hafiz, it's like a jigsaw puzzle where a multitude of meanings, economic, political, love, satire, criticism, you name it. He's just like a cake. Bam, 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 bam. Not to say that Rumi is just simplistic on its deeper meaning, but it actually is, in a sense that it's all about love. And what happens? You go crazy when you're in love, and the sense of freedom that actually it's one and the same. The correlation between freedom and love is very, very strong when it comes to Sufism, and when it comes to the interpretation of Islam that you find within the poems of Rumi. He's expressing his love for the divine in such a way, as Farno says, that it's durable, and you can bend it, and you can twist this around and turn your love for your mother, turn your love for your son, for your daughter, for your husband, for your wife, for your father. All of that love becomes one and the same. It doesn't matter what the object of affection is. It doesn't matter if the struggle is with your school teacher, or it's with your president, or it's within the supreme leader, whatever the hell that means, right? So ultimately here, I think there is an essence of rebellion when it comes to love. There is an essence of freedom that is a direct correlation to love. And when you see this immense yearning and longing, even within the ritualistic rites of passing, when one passes away in Iranian culture, their level of mourning is expressed on a completely different level. When I go to India and I went to the Ganges River and Varanasi, I noticed that in their culture, their connection to the idea of death is one of like total acceptance. People actually pack up their bags as if they're going to Hawaii, and they go to Varanasi and they're ready to pass on to the next life. And their idea of reincarnation, and the way that they express, their sense of mourning, is nothing compared to what you see happening in Iran. It is 40 days and nights of absolute tears, and people coming together, beating themselves, and cutting their hairs. If you notice in Iran today, Layla, many women, in solidarity with the women life freedom movement, there is a tradition called Gisporidan, okay, where now you notice a lot of actresses and actors and people from all over the world, they're chiming in by cutting their hair. Well, this is a ritual that goes back thousands of years in Iran. This is a pre-Islamic ritual, and again, it's like, I am so sad that I lost my mother, that I'm going to cut my hair at the gravesite. So this tradition that has existed within Iranian culture for a very, very long time, again, has become a 2022 ritual in the fight and struggle for women's liberation today. So a poem written by Rumi 800, however many years ago, 700 years ago, 600 years ago, a poem written by Hafiz from the 14th century by Saadi, Bani Adam Azo Yek Peikaran, which is at the United Nations. Yes, so culture, when you have messages of love, messages of freedom, these are timeless.
Mhm.
These will always transfer over. And today, I would agree with Farnas that um, doesn't take much to want to adapt this to what's happening today.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to open it up to see if anyone had any comments, but I think we're running out of time. I do want to say a couple of things. So our 6 weeks has come to an end, and we've asked all of our students to send videos of themselves reading this poem in beautiful locations. We've gotten a few. There's still a couple weeks to send in your videos to get your certificate for the boot camp. It's very important. It's a great little certificate. But this idea of the videos was actually Farid's to begin with, and it's a tradition that we've carried on. It's lovely. So Farid, we've gotten 4 videos so far, and hopefully we'll get more and more as the next
I
couple
just
weeks.
wanted to thank them. You have done such a great job of
Yeah.
reciting the poems.
Yeah,
I've seen them all. Beautiful, all of you, beautiful.
yeah, they've been wonderful.
Thank you.
So we are going to continue to gather videos. We are, Theranos is going to continue doing live. So people that have been part of the boot camp, we are going to transition into, there's not going to be another boot camp until the New Year, the Western New Year. So November 1st, that's our next 6-week boot camp. But all of our lessons and everything are on our website all the time, so you can continue your studies. We're going to keep the circle group and keep the lives going with Theranos each week. I'm not sure exactly what time they're going to be. We're going to discuss that and see what we're going to do, but they're going to be topic based. So each month or every 2 weeks or something, we're going to have a new topic, and we're going to send which lessons you have to study in order to be able to practice this. It's going to be all levels, so there will be more advanced people with more beginner people helping each other out, and that's the best way to learn, is to keep practicing this vocabulary that we're learning and test it out with people. And then with Farid, what we're going to continue to do, we're going to have a new series of poems done with Farid, and it's going to be in conjunction with his Radif retreat, which is his boot camp to learn Persian music, and I'll have him explain that really briefly as well. Oh, there's someone coming in. Darrow is coming in very late, but he'll catch the last 3 minutes. So the Radif retreat series will be more like what we did today in the live, where we talk about the musicality of the poems. And so we are also going to have the poetry be its own course. Right now it's mixed in with our speak program, but we're working on separating the two. So whenever you see the Radif retreat icon on the poems, you'll know that it's done with Farid. And Farid, if you want to talk about that for a minute, and I'll look at the questions in the chat. Let's see.
Yes, thank you, Layla John. I'm excited to continue bringing good poems and beautiful literature for everyone to study and to learn the musicality behind the Persian language, because ultimately that's a characteristic that I think everyone will, enjoy. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a musician. I just want to say that, part of this is just to become more, fluent in a language. They say to understand a joke or the sense of humor of a culture means you really get it, right? And I think that the second thing, or the 3 things should be humor, cuisine, and music, right?
Very nice.
These 3 things are really important. So I do believe that if music is understood on a really pivotal level, then you will fall further in love, as Rumi talks of, and with the language. So Radif Retreat, as Layla says, we're planning to put together this series, and I'm really excited to do that. And we teach and we have students from all walks of life, all different cultures. We have 40 students right now in our body, and we get together once a year in New Mexico for about a week at a beautiful sacred temple with hot springs, and we eat good food and we make music and we have a really good time. So if anyone's interested in that, that will be happening every December. And yeah, Layla, I'm excited to continue doing this with you.
Yeah, and I'm putting the That Deep Retreat Instagram in the chat. That's the best place to find Guide and what he's been working on. And
Thank you.
see his different students. Sahara, yes, if you want to put your video on Instagram and tag us, that's even better. Everyone can see it. And
Yeah.
again, thank you for the kind words, Daniel. And I think that's all of our comments. And Becca. And
I do just want to say one
Yeah, go
thing,
ahead.
because some people here have been writing me to the Instagram page, and I want to tell everyone that I've been in the dark as well for about 5 weeks plus because of the revolution. And I think I'm slowly beginning to balance this back out, because we do need to continue contributing to the culture in a significant way to fight the oppression, right? So for those of you that have been writing me to join classes, I want you to know that starting, I think next week, we're going to really wrap back around. I'll be getting back to everyone on Instagram.
Wonderful. And then Farnaz, is there any final words you want to say about, hopefully we'll see everyone still continue classes and continue to be
That's
with
all,
us.
that's all I can say. Just continue and don't, just go as a turtle. Come slowly, but
Yes.
just by continuously. And that you will get there. You will get there. And this is beautiful. I mean, if you enjoy it, and if you would see the results, and you can communicate with your wife, your husband, or your fiance, or whoever, your family member, or maybe you just read the poetry and you enjoy that, for whatever reason you've started learning, continue that, and it will get there. I mean, don't ever give up or get tired, because gradually you will get there. Yeah, I hope to see everybody back again.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for being here. And we've gone a couple minutes over our time. So, one more read together, Sonia. I think we'll leave that for you guys to send in your videos. And we've unfortunately gone over our time a little bit, but thank you again to everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye, and thank you for being patient with us for this live. We weren't sure exactly what direction we were going to go in, but I think that was a lot of fun.
It was good. It was organic. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank
Okay.
you, thank
Khuda
you.
Hafiz,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Khuda Hafiz,
Nice
Khuda
to meet
Hafiz.
you guys. Looking forward to meeting you all again. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Hafiz.
bye.